Okay, you're watching Startup Daily TV here every day from 2 till 3. Next up, heart disease is one of the world's biggest killers. Imagine being able to detect it from a simple saliva test at your GP. Melbourne medtech startup ESN Clear is on the brink of making that a reality and potentially saving millions of lives every year. To tell us about this incredible breakthrough, we're joined by cardiologist Professor Andrew Coates and ESN Clear's chairman and CEO Leo De Bruin. Hi guys, welcome to Startup Daily.
Hi, how are you doing?
Great to have you both on, and this is a technological breakthrough for us. We're delighted to have the pair of you join us. Now, this sounds both simple and amazing at the same time. How did you discover that saliva was the solution to early detection of heart disease, and what does it tell us about our hearts?
Absolutely. Andrew, I'll quickly jump in. So we screened 16 different biomarkers detected in saliva, and we found that it detects responses in the body. So specifically, early neurohormonal responses, activation of the immune system, and fibrotic pathways, and also biochemical changes reflecting congestion and raised intravascular pressures and renal distress.
Is this a world first breakthrough? What's the potential with this kind of breakthrough?
Absolutely, yes. So we've been speaking to the leading pharmaceutical businesses in the world, and there is no other test that can detect the early risk of heart failure. So heart failure as a disease is a very difficult one, and most of the time it's only detected after you have symptoms, and that's really too late, as you stand a 50-50 chance of dying within the first year after diagnosis. So detecting this early risk is extremely important.
On the front line of this problem, how much impact do you think it has the potential to make? One of the numbers I read is that more than 10 million people a year die of heart disease, and 64 million people a year are diagnosed with it.
Yeah, I might come in. Andrew Coates, a great pleasure. First of all, I'd like to recognise Chimindi Panyandera and colleagues at QUT who did some of the early work that ESN Clear then sort of licensed. And we've extended it and taken it from detecting heart failure to predicting heart failure. And that's why we think there's such potential, because there are 7 effective treatments for heart failure, all of which reduce mortality, but you can't start them until you've had a diagnosis. And often you take a 30% risk of dying in the process of getting a diagnosis, because it only triggers once you've had an emergency admission. If we can get a reliable test before you have it, you can get those treatments and protect you then long term. That's why there's such potential.
And is this something that would have to go through TGA and FDA approval processes?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got really 2 products in the pipeline. So the first one is let's call it a saliva vial kit, where you collect saliva in a vial, and this gets sent to a lab to do the test, and it would go back to the physician. We're seeking FDA, CE, TGA approvals by around March, April next year. The second product would be, if you can see my screen, a electronic toothbrush size electronic device, and we'd be seeking regulatory approvals for those around mid to late of 2022.
Now, you raised, I think, initially $2.5 million for this project. How much more do you need to get it across the line and roll out in the next 12 months? Or are you kind of there already?
So we're seeking another 2.4 million at the moment, a raise that we've just recently opened up, and it's a bit of an ongoing process for us. So the first product would be we'd be able to launch that with this new raise, and then we would probably have another raise or 2 for the second product.
Now, Professor, one of the things that we were talking about in the community this morning is the ongoing impacts potentially of COVID-19. I understand there's potential in this test to also be able to monitor the effects of COVID-19 on patients in the long term and what might be happening to their hearts.
Well, there are 2 aspects. I mean, our test is flexible, so it can detect the risk of heart failure, which itself is a life-threatening condition, and heart failure is a complication of COVID. So we know that it may be useful. But it's also a platform technology, and it wouldn't be too difficult. I mean, it would take further funding. We could develop tests more dedicated to that particular setting in the future.
Professor, how closely are you exploring that, or is the initial saliva test for heart disease the priority here?
Well, like all small startups, we're absolutely laser focused on getting our first project. Then if we're very successful in fundraising and we can go more for a second project, absolutely we could go into that. But we are dedicated to getting the heart failure detection first.
Now, I understand you've been in discussions with some of the world's biggest pharmaceutical companies about the rollout of this test. How are they going, and how big a game changer will that be for you guys in taking this global?
Yeah, so we've probably over the last about 9 to 12 months been in deep discussions with the largest of the bunch, and it's really a global product. So what we envisage is there's a few pathways, either a companion device diagnostic where the test is administered and then a treatment follows, or another pathway where the test is conducted and then the doctor can decide, by himself without, needing to go through the heart failure guidelines. But yeah, I guess that's exciting for us in the next, let's say 12 months or so, and we'll keep you posted.
And Professor Coates, I know that a lot of this is dependent on the approval processes and how long that takes. But in terms of your vision for the rollout, what's the fastest that we could see this in use in Australia and then overseas? What would you like to see?
As Leo suggested, there are several different routes. I mean, the quickest route is just to have a simple vial test where a saliva sample is taken and it goes to an accredited laboratory. And that it's feasible to get approval within 12 months because it's just simply doing a test for certain biomarkers. The more complicated one is the huge value one, which is to link it to a treatment that then we prove in a major trial reduces mortality. And that requires a long-term 3 to 5 year trial. So there are several endpoints. It could be utilized within a year to 2 through the quicker route.
Now, before we let you go, I don't want to give up the chance to have a quick consultation with the doctor. Can you just take us through heart disease, what it is, why it happens, what's going on? Are we spending too much time on the couch, too much time on the fags, or what's happening that causes this problem, and why is it such a big problem?
It's a big problem because it's the most common cause of death. It's acquired. So there are multiple diseases, and we all know what the risk factors are. The simple ones are smoking, physical inactivity, diabetes, overweight, excess alcohol. And another big one, of course, is you've got to choose your parents correctly because of the genetic factors. Once you get heart disease, it can be a slow process, and the end stage of all heart diseases is heart failure. And the good news is we have many, many effective treatments. The bad news, as we cure these other illnesses and we all grow older, we'll end up getting some heart failure in the end, almost inevitably.
We just sort of run out of tread on the tyres, I suppose. But I tell you what, just after hearing those risk factors, I'm looking forward to this diagnosis coming out soon. Gentlemen, great to have you on the show today. Thank you for sharing this groundbreaking news with us. Really appreciate your time, and best of luck with the rollout. We will be following it closely.
Lovely. Thank you very much.